Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I'm your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he'll call you a taxi to the subway so you can go home to your little apartment. It's Arturo Zurita.
As if we get a day off here, the producers got us working back to back to back. We're like... It's like we're on Spider-Verse or a Max series.
I don't want to hear anything about HR. But we did consult the board, and we decided to name Amanda the Jedi the CEO of Intercut Co.'s Best of the Year so far list. Thank you for accepting the position, Miss Jedi.
Of course, always. I'm obviously the biggest TV watcher here. I watch all shows all the time, always caught up. Yes.
I was in the same predicament Amanda was, which was you thought you saw a lot of shows. And then you go in there and you realize, yeah, Perfect Match, no, this other reality show. And then you realize, like, none of these reality shows, as great and as funny and as good content as they make, are going in a top 10 video.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Because it ain't intentional content. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, but it's reality TV. It's the new bread and butter, as David Zaslav says, so.
Yeah, it might be the only thing we get if this writer's strike continues for a little while, but that's for another year's best of list to deal with. This year, we are talking about the best TV that we've had so far in 2023. And as you both alluded to, we talk about movies every year, we talk about TV every year, and I often come in with probably a more comprehensive list of TV shows that I've seen than the both of you, but the movies that we just spent 2 hours talking about, the best movies of the year so far, have been occupying so much of, I think, our collective time and attention. We've been spending more time in theaters than normally, that it's been harder to really dive into TV this year. Do you find yourself gravitating to any specific networks or maybe some new networks as far as the TV landscape is concerned? I've mentioned in the past that I seem to be watching less and less Netflix, and once again, I have no Netflix shows on my top 10. But the network I was surprised to see how strong their year was so far was Peacock. I have a couple spots for Peacock on my list.
Peacock's my number one.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because you love Traitors, the Alan Cumming reality show?
Obviously.
Iron Chef.
Yeah.
Yeah, Iron Chef, Trading Places,
Peacock's
whatever.
doing decent. HBO before it became Max, obviously always there. I don't think I have any newbies in the horizon for me. A couple Prime shows that I thought did pretty well. But I think that in terms of all of the new networks, rest in peace Paramount Plus, because they don't have anything even on their platform at this point. I think we're whittling it down. I think that's where it's getting exciting now, because we're seeing that just a couple of years ago, last year, we mentioned how you can have a subscription service to pay for 31 days out of the month, damn near 32 days out of the month. And now they're finally closing in. I don't know if you heard about Showtime, officially shutting down and combining with Paramount Plus.
Jesus.
Yeah, folding in the consolidation. I wanted to put a Paramount Plus show on my list, but I just had to pull it off at the last moment.
Wow.
Nothing
Just
from
like
Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
With the TV that we did watch, there are, I'm sure, shows that you were thinking about watching or hoping to get around to, but you just didn't find some time for. Are there any shows that you want to give a shout out because you are interested in them, but you just couldn't squeeze in enough time to include them in this list? Art, you have any shows?
I have two that it's just the most recent seasons. One would be Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I was able to catch a couple of the beginning of this final season, but I did not wrap it. Now I realize why they had to wrap it. Mrs. Clark Kent over here has finally moved on to bigger and more marvelous things, but obviously with Maisel wrapping up, that was my go-to show when it began. Another one would be From. It's on season 2, and I was able to catch up on it because of Prime getting the first season. I am refusing to get Epix, which is now MGM Plus. They can't decide on a name. I can't decide on getting a year's worth of that. So I'm waiting for From Season 2 to get put on Prime again. But those would be two series off the top of my head right now that I would recommend because they had really strong beginnings, and I'm curious to see how they end or continue.
Nice. Yeah, From was one of the series that somebody had commented saying that that was their favorite of the year so far. So we've heard from the Intercuties. Right. We got to keep it in mind. Amanda, any shows that you didn't get around to, but you might enjoy if you had seen them?
The other people? No, sorry, the other two. Sorry, my bad.
Yes.
The other two.
We were so close.
I know. That was on purpose. Don't worry. Mrs. Davis, Dead Ringers. I didn't catch either of those, and I'm hearing
Dead
kind
Ringers
of like
is another I wanted to.
Things. Probably some other stuff that is just totally escaping my mind. I feel like sadly the landscape of television right now is that it is so easy for it to just and gone. And before you've even noticed that a blip happened, that something was there, it is like fucking in the rear view, and you don't think about it again until someone mentions it in one of these like halfway lists or end of years.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're still, living in an era of peak TV. And again, we saw a lot of networks just flooding like April and May specifically to get their shows in before the end of the Emmy deadline in a way that made it hard to keep up. I feel like I saw the series finale for like 4 different shows that I'd been keeping up with like within 2 days of each other.
Yeah.
It became hard to fit it all in. I know that I was hoping, like you, to get around to Dead Ringers at some point. Probably the main show that I'm upset that I didn't get around to is Jury Duty. I've been hearing a lot of great things about it. A lot of people are really enjoying it so far. But yeah, so I haven't seen that one. I was curious about Digman, the Andy Samberg voiced animated show over on Comedy Central. I don't know. I could use a animated comedy in my life. And then I mentioned I don't have any Netflix shows, but the number one Netflix show that I've heard recommended is actually The Diplomat. I caught like the first episode of, but I didn't really fully dive into it, so I feel like I should give it a shout out. It's apparently a pretty big hit, and they're bringing back for another season. So yeah, a lot of TV that we didn't get around to, but there is some TV we did get around to, and in a little bit we'll talk about those best TV shows of 2023 so far. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at Intercut Pod, as well as on TikTok at Intercut POD, which is short for podcast. We're also Intercut Pod on Patreon, where you can support the show for as little as $1 per month. And be sure to leave us those juicy 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If we get to 250 5-star reviews on Apple, Art and I will come to each of your houses to watch a movie with you. You down for another road trip, dude?
You know what? Make it a mini series, bro. I'm not going to travel all the way to just watch a 90-minute film. Bo is afraid of nothing. Minimum runtime.
An entire HBO Prestige offering for each one of you.
You remember when Logic did that? He went to people's houses just to listen to the album. We're already in your houses. We're in your ears.
Yeah. All right, so let's kick it off with the 10 best shows of the year so far. I'll do the honors and go first. My number 10 slot, I'm giving to the Boots Riley show over on Amazon. I'm a Virgo. A really insanely creative show, just like full of visually inventive and like philosophically inventive stuff. Pretty funny, led by Jarrell Jerome as a 13-foot tall young man. I love how the series adopts a lot of the visual language of like superheroes and superhero films, but uses them in completely new ways. I feel like episode 3 does something more interesting with super speed than anything that happened in The Flash. Like something that's visually interesting and kind of emotional. There's a lot to really dig into in this show. It's a bit scattered, and I don't know if all of it succeeds as well as certain elements of it, but the things that I love about it, I think, are amazing. So I wanted to include it here. I'm a Virgo at my number 10. Art, I don't know if you got it elsewhere on your list or just give it a honorable shout out.
Literally number 11. I decided on something else last minute for it. But honestly, something might get bumped out, but there's a finale to a series that's going to be my number 10 that I wanted to honor a little bit more instead. But
well, tell us about it.
Barry season 4. It's either I knocked out Barry season 4. or put in I'm a Virgo, so I'm glad you put in I'm a Virgo. It would have been my honorable mention. And I think you're going to have it a little bit higher, as I mentioned, so I'll save my thoughts on the finale of Barry.
Cool. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Amanda, what just made it into your number 10? What did you have to include by default?
Yeah, sadly, I'm a Virgo is one that I haven't. I caught like one episode when we were at South by, and I haven't had a chance to get further into it, so I just couldn't put it on really. So I guess I'm gonna go with Shrinking, which
nice.
I thought it was really cute. I think it does some stuff really well. I don't know if like it all hits as good as some of the earlier stuff does in the season, but yeah, overall I like it. I'm a big fan of Segel, Jason Segel. Oh. Yeah. Big fan. Oh, and Harrison Ford too. Big fan of Jason Segel, and I kind of like this. It's similar but kind of different for him at the same time. It's almost channeling the Forgetting Sarah Marshall vibe of that kind of like awkward, dejected loser. Except now he has to pull it together because he has a fucking kid. He has a teenager. So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was cute. It just felt a little bit more, I guess, more network television-y than I would expect for something that's on like one of the streaming services, which I guess is just inevitably going to start happening. But.
Yeah, it's very bizarre that like this show that has like Harrison Ford and Jason Segel, who's like kind of a movie star too, just has the structure and feel of like a traditional half-hour sitcom. But I don't know, there's something delightful about that. I got it higher up on my list. Art might have it too. I know he enjoyed it, but
honorable mention.
Another honorable mention.
Yeah, like that should tell you how big this year is.
It's yeah. I like Shrinking.
There's a lot of good stuff for sure. So Art had Barry, I had I'm a Virgo, Amanda had Shrinking. My number 9, I have a feeling is going to appear a lot higher on both y'all's lists, so I'll save it. But it's The Last of Us season 1.
Damn,
so let's go. I didn't hate it. We'll talk about it. But Art, let's go back to your number 9.
I have the one series that is a docu-series, that is a mini-series, the Hulu original 5-episode Dear Mama. Hulu's had done a really good job of having these like alternative type of like content in terms of that Rap Caviar series that I thought was pretty good. Where they broke down different artists, specifically Tyler the Creator one, I thought was edited beautifully. But the Dear Mama series, bro, in a couple of years ago, before they changed the rules, this would have been considered like OJ Made in America, like that massive 5-hour documentary thing. But now in the era of streaming, they actually have a place to host it, and I'm glad that it is as long as it is. This is so good, like my mom was watching it. My brother was watching it. If you have not caught this takes the story of Tupac Shakur, but tells it specifically from the perspective of his mom. Obviously, he's got the iconic song, Dear Mama, but it's really just about how her upbringing led to his upbringing and how it led to a lot of the decisions that he made. But the talking heads that they have, the way that someone will be talking about an incident or something that happened, and the way they animate it, no, bro. We talked about the Apple TV documentary for Michael J. Fox and how visually the editing there is really great. The sound effect editing in this is insane. When someone's telling a story, bro, it's like ad-libs to how they're recounting a tale. I highly, highly recommend it. Dear Mama, 5 episodes over on Hulu.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds so interesting. I remember you recommending it, so now I'll make sure to prioritize it because that sounds great. Amanda, let's go back to you for number 9.
I think I'm going to go with A Small Light. I'm not completely finished it yet, but it is like it's on Disney. It's the one where it's essentially about the people who helped hide the Frank family.
Yeah.
And I find it's really interesting because it just kind of shows like the level of like people thinking that they can move through different areas of Europe and be safe from Hitler, and then before long he's knocking on your door. It didn't really quite matter where you were over there. Like Nazis were going to start showing up and start doing what they were going to do. So I think it's like really interesting how it shows that progression and very quick ramp up. So I think it's like really interesting. I think it's really well done, and it's like incredibly moving, and hopefully, one that a lot of people get a chance to check out because so far it's really, really hitting.
Belle Powley is the lead, I think, in that one. I like her. She's a really good actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Belle Powley a lot. It's also show ran, I believe, by the person who directed Cat Person, which that movie's not out, but we got a chance to see it at Sundance. Maybe a bit of a left-hand turn from Cat Person, but yeah, I was curious about this one. I think it was one of the films that was shows that was included at South by this year too, right?
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that. Wild.
Yeah. They had a
not that any of us caught
2
it there,
episodes.
but
Yeah, but hey, look at that. More TV appearing in a lot of the film festivals that we go to. But yeah, that's one I have on my radar. That'll be on my watch list.
Cool. All right, Amanda's number 9, A Small Light on Disney Plus through National Geographic. My number 8, Art, do you have Bupkis on your list?
Bro.
Dude, I need to catch up with that too. Shit.
Bro. No, it is an honorable mention. Y'all said Shrinking. Y'all said Bupkis. There's 2 more comedies. There's 2 more comedies that I could not fit in my top 10, so I'm glad you got this one down. Dude, season 2, let's go. It's the best thing Pete Davidson did this year, and he did a lot. He did a lot.
Yeah,
He did so much.
He did too much.
I think it's like one of the best things that Pete Davidson has done. Like a very good use of his like charming, goofy affableness, but also kind of griminess. That he is very funny, but like has this ability for dramatic pathos as well. And the show kind of careens back and forth between like very silly scenes and pretty serious scenes. But I think they're able to navigate it pretty well in a way that, you know, is similar in tone or maybe in pursuit to something like King of Staten Island that he's done before, but just feels a lot more natural. And part of that is because he's like literally playing a version of himself. He's Pete Davidson, the big comedy celebrity, but it's also a show that like finds room for a lot of really interesting characters in his life. He's got, whether it's like the real people coming in for cameos like John Mulaney, or the people who are cast to play members of his family like Edie Falco and Joe Pesci, who are excellent. I just think it's a show that is very works very effectively and is unexpectedly winning. You know, it has a sweetness that you wouldn't expect given how raunchy Pete Davidson can be with his comedy.
And that's the issue. I recommended it to some people, and the opening comes off really strong, and that may deter a lot of people. Amanda clearly has not seen the show, in which case I will just put a really big warning out there. But damn, is it funny. Joe Pesci alone, seeing him return to this type of wise guy, the quick whips that he gives, really made me want to put it. But again, the number 10 and 9 spots, everything else above this, it just wouldn't have budged. I couldn't put it above Barry or the docuseries that I had on there, but I'm really excited that it's coming back, because I think it's like what he did with Staten Island to the next level, and it suits him really well.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's coming back, like you said. So Bupkis, I have at number 8. Art, what did you end up putting at number 8 on your list?
Y'all mentioned it as your honorable mentions, and I did get to go through it on Prime. Starring Rachel Weisz. You said it was a V, though. It's Rachel Weisz?
It's
Vice.
like Vice. It's like a Vice.
Whatever you call it, I call it one of the best performances of the year, and I don't even know how you get nominated for 2 roles. Dead Ringers, the remake of a movie from the 70s, 80s, now
80s.
Put into a series about these 2 twin sisters who have a fertility clinic, and it is insane. Both sisters kind of run the place in different ways because they're trying to get funding, and so they have to like appease all these bigwigs in terms of how they would approach the people who come in. What would they do with the fetuses and such? There is some crazy stuff that happens in the show. If y'all remember from Sundance, we talked about this movie called Birth, Rebirth. Mm-hmm. That's like a throwaway moment for this series, dude.
Okay. Because it's technically like a remake of the Cronenberg thing, right? Like it's taking...
Yeah. He's just like remaking all of his stuff, even with Crimes of the Future and such.
Yeah,
and
truly.
I am down for that. I know many times, people are against remakes, but when you're doing it to get like an even better performance, when you're able to flesh it out with it not being something so short, but it could be something like a series, I'm down for it. And I think this is the best example of that. I think she absolutely kills it in this show, to the point that she may be my second favorite performance of this list in terms of
nice
TV.
Nice.
Is it cheating though if it's 2?
No, I mean it shows off her range, I guess, right?
She's incredible.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what I've seen of Dead Ringers. I haven't seen enough of it where I felt comfortable putting it on this list, but especially with that recommendation, I'm gonna go back to it.
That's all I'll say.
Directed a lot of the episodes directed by my boy Sean Durkin, who did The Nest and Martha Marcy May Marlene.
Bruh,
Going to be
there you go.
directing Ironclaw later this year.
There you go. It's in its DNA then. It's good. It's very good.
Good stuff. All right, so Art's number 8 is Dead Ringers over on Amazon. Amanda, what do you have at 8 on your list?
I think I'm going to go with Slip, which was one I caught going into South by Southwest, actually. Zoe Lister. It's a really kind of weird show, and it kind of... It's kind of like there's way too much multiverse stuff going on right now, but it is kind of like one of the more creative
approach to multiverse.
It's a very unique approach to the multiverse, and it's all really being used for this person to just kind of gain a perspective of like her life and how she's living it and the people in it, and you know her regrets and the things that she might be taking for granted, and like I think it's really good. It's it feels like mirror held to yourself type thing is kind of what it really ends up feeling like going forward. It's a weird one, but it's super fast to get through, so easy recommend. And Paige from Degrassi is in it, so my Canadians, you have to watch it for Lauren Collins.
Yeah. An interesting series to think about when you consider it's one of the first things that she made post her split from her husband.
There you go.
But there's certainly a lot of fun in there. I think I might have preferred a more streamlined like feature film version of it.
Fair, I can see that.
But we like Zoe Lister-Jones on this podcast, so not complaining.
I'll give it the honorable mention. And Roku. Why is Roku picking up so much stuff? We're trying to consolidate streaming platforms, and Roku's like, yeah, but we'll do it for free. So
I mean,
sure.
Give it to them. They're at least doing it on the cheap, picking up Quibi's leftovers and stuff like that.
But shout out Zoe Lister-Jones. I know y'all kind of iffy on Beau is Afraid. She killed it in that movie. She's also in A Good Person, if you haven't caught that yet. Another recommendation that we're having in these lists over here. And I think she's back on the come up, dude. I'm a big fan of Zoe Lister-Jones.
Nice. All right, so Slip makes Amanda's number 8. My number 7 is my second entry from Peacock on the list so far. I'm going to go with Paul T. Goldman, the comedy docu-series, sort of, from Jason Woliner. Just a fascinating show. I've described it to people like if Nathan Fielder had directed The Jinx. I just think it starts as this guy doing a profile of like a very eccentric writer weirdo. And it ends up being this like interesting dissection in the desire to be seen as the hero, but it never really ends up like in this mean territory. It always circles back to like understanding and kindness in a way that I didn't expect, and the finale of it just escalates brilliantly. It's Jason Woliner, the director, is the guy who directed the more recent Borat movie, and I feel like you can feel a lot of that kind of influence here. But they just take this guy who doesn't feel like he would ever occupy the universe where he's like the center of a project like this, and just run with how that would feel. I think it led to a lot of my biggest laughs of the year, and it's certainly one of the most unique series I've seen, at least this year. So I'll put Paul T. Goldman at my number 7 slot. Art, I know this series made you a bit uncomfortable.
The cringe is strong in this one, Amanda.
You've warned me.
Art, what do you have at number 7 on your list?
Another Peacock series that I feel is going to be higher on yours. My one entry for Peacock here
the cock baby
is Poker Face.
Poker Face, yeah.
100%.
I got that a bit higher on my list.
Man, when this came out, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be like top 5. What a strong year for TV. Poker Face fires on all cylinders. I think every single episode, the way that they break it down to be kind of like a new case of this woman who, is able to read people's poker faces to the point where she's kind of solving like a different case every single episode is just fascinating. I can see seasons of this to come. Big Natasha Lyonne fan. Give me more. Appreciate it. We're going to talk more about it in a little bit. It should be higher. I can't believe it's not. Stacked year. Poker Face on Peacock. Please binge it. That's such a bingeable show.
Nice. We'll get back to Poker Face shortly, I'm sure. Amanda, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is my 7? Yeah. I Think You Should Leave. So the Netflix comedy sketch show. I just like it. I have fond memories of it. We have like friends who get together when it comes out. I missed this year's, but it's just one of those things. The show in general has like fond memories. And I would be a zipline guy. Like I'd go, if there's any, I'm going to show them like, I'm in it to win it. I'm going to win. And there'd be a zipline. I'm like, fuck.
Zipline.
Fuck.
The zipline.
Yeah. I'd be
funny
him.
About that one?
Yeah.
Is that's the first thing I thought of when the Tom Hanks niece tantrum. Did y'all see that bit? The first thing I've thought of when that went viral was the zip line.
Yeah, I'm making a video about that, just that one episode. Because for one, the show seems fake. So I was like, crazy. It's a real show. And then just the clip itself, I was like, I can use, I just made an entire thing about Fast and Furious. I can use a little quickie.
Levity.
Put the zip line bit in there, bro.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, it's like, the zip line bit, there's some really good ones, but that one's up there just because like it resonates. I'm like, for one, the reality thing, I'm a little bit too entrenched in it right now because people are enjoying it. And then two, it's just like, I fucking love a zip line. Like fucking Katrin, I fucking love a good zip line. I would be
Didn't
that
he also
guy.
have like Hawaiian shirts too?
Yeah.
I like the doggy door bit. That's the one that got me the hardest this year.
Yeah, doggy door is good. Oh my God.
Mine's the drive-through one.
55 burgers, 55 shakes. I love. Have you seen?
And they're
combining it with the combining it with the beef
from the bear.
Yeah, the bear. Sorry, the bear.
Yeah.
55 burgers. Yes, chef.
It's so good.
I
ended up putting I Think You Should Leave in my honorable mentions just because I think this was a really, really strong year of TV.
It is
very
a strong year.
Yeah. I still love that show. Tim Robinson is so funny.
He is.
My number 6 is a show I definitely expected to be higher, but again, it is a strong year for TV. I'm putting Barry's final season at number 6 on my list. Bill Hader's show has just evolved in a really fascinating way from absurd comedy with moments of hubris and drama to a full-on drama that has these flashes of comedy here and there. This season, definitely you can feel his furthering interests in expanding his voice as a director. I saw somebody on Twitter had said that you can chart the show from a guy who is really interested in writing to a guy who becomes really interested in directing. And those last few episodes are such tonally assured pieces. He has this ominous, unsettling vibe throughout that even when like the show will lean towards the comedy, it never really leaves that uncomfortable feeling that permeates throughout the show. It's also just like a fantastically acted show. It's among my favorite casts on television. And the finale itself, the final episode, was incredibly bold and incredibly dark. Like one of the stronger finales to a show I'd seen, particularly given that it's a show that was subject to having some bad fans in like the Breaking Bad rooting for Walter White kind of way. And I think he kind of very definitively said what he feels about not only this character, but how people should feel about this character, how people should react to this character, and the ways in which media can be used to kind of twist the narrative around people like this character. So, Barry, it's a pretty incredible series.
We've had a lot of meta-ness in movies and TV, and I think the way this one handled it, especially with certain jumps that it makes in the 4th season, it's been sitting with me the best out of a lot of the even Warner Brothers itself. I recall back to the Matrix moment where they're like, oh, the Warner Brothers executives want us to make another Matrix movie. It's like, oh okay. This one does it to a degree that in terms of dramas just works so well. I'm going to take a little tangent here. Do you remember Lil Wayne when he made that rock album?
Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone was like, what the heck is this? And now, like, Lil Uzi Vert, who is a descendant of that album, has now taken it to the umpteenth degree. Everyone is so concerned about, is Barry still a comedy? Wait, why is it too dramatic? And they can't handle it. And in 5-10 years' time, the descendants of Barry are going to make something that may not even be as good as Barry, but will finally be appropriate for the people because of what the show was able to plant the seeds for. I'm excited to see what he does next. I like the bit that you said about how comfortable he is in directing because, last season's direction, he's on another level now. And I love the bit that they did at the end about how it all wraps up within the story of a story. It's really good. And Sarah Goldberg, shout out, one of my favorite. It's continued to be one of my favorite supporting performances in TV. And I hope she gets on.
Yeah, it'll be one of the all-time overlooked performances if she doesn't end up with a Emmy nomination after this season. She's so good. The show's so good. But that was my number 6. Art, what did you put at number 6 on your list?
You said you had no Netflix shows, and I have one little Netflix show called Beef. A lot of beef in two shows that I have on here. It is the story of two people who find themselves connected after road rage and then end up bonding because of all of the issues and problems that they have with each other. This was another one that was at South by that premiered a couple of episodes there, and it is a miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. It's on Letterboxd, 351 minutes of two people whose problems create more problems. But there is performances within this that I think stand out a lot. Stephen Yeun's church scene. That's when I knew this was going to be cemented for me as one of the best shows. And even Ali Wong, I think when you and I discussed it, you preferred Ali Wong. You said that she was more of the standout, and I can't even argue with that because there are certain points towards the second half where you see how detrimental they are to themselves and the ripple effects of that. There's even an episode towards the end that I know a lot of people kind of fall off on the show because it all takes place in one setting, and as depressing as it is, I thought the conversations within there is kind of the climax to what it was all building up to between the two of them. There's a lot of garbage that then was attached to the show as well, which is very disappointing, and I think that there's a lot to fix within that, but as a standalone show, I highly recommend it for its performances and what it's talking about. Beef on Netflix.
Yeah, I had this one in my honorable mentions too. I both of their performances are great. I think we were maybe we've had more chances to see Stephen Yeun do like incredible stuff, but this is probably the best role that Ali Wong has been given. I like her a lot,
True.
But she's given so much to do with this character that it was cool to see her push herself to these places and be so compelling in them. Like she's a real star. I'd love to see her get more opportunities like this going forward. Amanda, what do you have at your number 6?
I think I messed up my order a little bit, but I'm fine with this being here.
Yeah.
Platonic.
Nice.
One of the Intercuties mentioned it the other day.
Another honorable mention for me too.
Yeah, one of the Intercuties mentioned it the other night, and I was like, well, that's an easy, fast one to get through. Yeah. And I like both of these actors, and I thought it was really charming. Like, you look up, I don't know what's up with Google reviews lately. Google reviews is like just a slew of 1 stars and a slew of 5. I can't take it seriously anymore. I don't know what's going on there. People are just flooding everything with those. But I thought it was like really fun. I know. But yeah, it's basically about these like platonic friends. They had like, pretty strong friendship until, one like Seth Rogen's character is getting married and she doesn't, Rose Byrne doesn't like the wife, I guess. And then they have a falling out because of it. And then turning on for the divorce of Seth Rogen because apparently that girl wasn't so great. Them kind of rekindling their friendship and connection and just like the dynamic of like they're platonic, but maybe they still are a little bit too close just for like where they are at this stage in their life. But just it's funny, it's charming. I know some people are like Seth Rogen always plays the same thing, but like, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If that's why you want Seth Rogen to be in something, that's why you want Seth Rogen to be in something. Yeah. A lot of people just do the same thing over and over again. But and I really like Rose Byrne, and it was really nice to see her like in a fully committed like comedic role Like, she has some of her other moments in the show, but really just kind of letting her cut loose and not just having to be the one that's like, oh, I guess I'll have to be a little bit more reserved here while the person I'm acting across is the really ridiculous one. She has more of her moments to, like, shine through. I really liked it. It's really, really charming, really cute, nice, breezy comedy.
Yeah, a cut loose is the appropriate phrase there, because it really does feel like just a chance to ease in and relax and have a little fun. Like, my favorite scene in the whole series is when they're all at the bar doing special skills, because it has like absolutely no relevance to the plot whatsoever. But it's just like all of these. These very funny people just doing very silly things together, and it's a good vibe. The show is a great vibe. It's a great hangout. That's what TV's supposed to be. It's a hangout. Exactly. So I had it in my honorable mentions. Art, you said you had it in yours too.
I shouldn't know that episodes release on Wednesdays. That's how much we look forward to it. We love that show. I think it's hilarious.
It's fun.
They're great in Neighbors 1 and 2. The way they were able to play off of each other was so good. So, like, seeing them here, it just, I think everyone fires on all cylinders. And there's a lot of actors from Bros in this as well.
Yeah, there is,
Guy Branum and Luke McFarlane,
Fascinating. And they're really good in it. So, I too, would highly recommend this show. It was one of the 4 honorable mention comedies that I have. So, there's one left. But great pick, Amanda.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
We'll see if we get to them in the top 5. But first, we'd like to thank the Intercutie patrons, those wonderful people who support the show. Our Academy level members are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Janicia, Tyler, and Benji. And of course, a big thanks to the producer level patrons who are Yuden Veer, Sam, and Wiley. Thank you again for all the support, and a reminder that you too can become a member at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for benefits like early access to Intercut episodes, our outlines, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, and an invitation to the monthly patron Google meetings over patreon.com/intercutpod. You know, I did a poll over on the Intercut community tab, and 37% of the people who voted said that Succession was their favorite TV show of the year so far. We got 25% of the vote for Last of Us, and another 17% for the one that you just picked, Art, Beef. Those were the most popular choices among the Intercuties, so some good taste in the audience.
No Love is Blind love?
Excellent.
Unfortunately nothing for Love is Blind, but 9% for Abbott Elementary. I don't know if that will come up a little bit later.
I haven't caught up with season 2 yet, but it's a real good show.
Yeah.
I had that in my honorable mentions. Nice. But one that
I don't have a tie here, so I might find room for it.
Oh, maybe.
Fuck yourself.
Art, you got Shrinking on your list, or you said it was an honorable mention? I have it at number 5. That was an honorable
mention.
Ooh, yeah, I got a number 5. I really enjoyed it. I am a big fan of Jason Segel. I just generally enjoy him, and like you mentioned, Amanda, he's very much in that Forgetting Sarah Marshall kind of like sad sack lovable loser mold, except that he has this it's my favorite version of him, and I think something that he does particularly well is like ride the line of likability. Like, his character gets himself into lots of scenarios where he's kind of a jerk, he's kind of a failure, he kind of is a stupid person, but you still kind of end up on his side in the end. Because he does seem so endearing and so sweet and genuinely good-hearted. And I think the show, he kind of embodies the ethos of the show, which is this really like humanistic, like well-intentioned look at how we can help the people around us, and whether that's through therapy or just through friendships and being in close proximity to other people. Like, there's good you can do. You know, this is the show that kind of, I think, took that belt away from Ted Lasso, and it's not surprising that it has a lot of the same writers as the better seasons of Ted Lasso did. So I will go ahead and put Shrinking on number 5 on my list.
I found out that the reason Harrison Ford is on the show was because Phoebe Waller-Bridge introduced him to Brett Goldstein. And that's how he ended up doing Shrinking.
Yeah, because it seems like a very weird thing for Harrison Ford to do.
There you go.
Right?
100%. You know? And now he's saying that it's one of his favorite things that is keeping him in acting. Why he doesn't want to retire. So
I can see why. It's like when your whole career has been action acting and like these high profile things, and you're kind of laying to rest characters that you love and didn't love so much, but other people do. I can see why you think your career is over, but like having the door open to do something that's a little bit like, well, significantly more grounded, but still good and impactful. Why the fuck not?
Yeah. Now he's Red Hulk.
He's pretty incredible in this series, and it's really nice to see him in this kind of like curmudgeonly but like sweet role.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
All right, Shrinking is my number 5. Art, what is your number 5?
My favorite Prime show of the year. We went out there in line at South by, where a lot of South by premieres, dude. We went out in line to go get some bucket hats for the new version of American Psycho, in my opinion, Swarm. From the mind of Donald Glover and several other people who worked on Atlanta. It is a series about fandom taken to the next level, obviously influenced by the Beehive themselves. But Dominique Fishback. Checking it here, making sure.
The real deal.
Favorite performance in TV from an actress. Honestly, actor in general. There are expressions on her face when she's going around doing what she's doing that I thought, nah, bro, there's so much going on there. It's shot on film, so it captures every crisp moment. We cut all screeners, which are not even in 1080, and it still looked incredible. There are moments in this show that just catch you off guard. There is, I'm just going to say elements to it without saying what type, that I thought were really interesting. Appearances that I think are standouts in terms of future categories of who should be nominated, and just surprises all around. I highly recommend this show. I think it is a very good character study. Really gets into the psychology of a person, especially with episodes that kind of showcase why she is the way she is. Dominique Fishback, freaking killing it this year. And again, I'm surprised it's not higher, but it's a stacked year.
I gotta
highly recommend Swarm.
I've seen like one episode, but I was a little hurt that I didn't make it to get a bucket hat. So I was like, felt I couldn't.
It reminds you every time you try to put the show on.
I know it does. I'm like, I missed out on all the cool Swarm merch. All I have is a Daisy Jones in the 6. Yeah, I got the jacket.
No, but you got the jacket for.
I got the jacket.
Yeah, you got the jacket. That was the best one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Daisy Jones. Did anyone finish that one? That's another Prime one. No?
No,
I did not.
Oh, well. Thanks for the drinks, Daisy Jones, though. That's helpful.
Yeah. I put Swarm in my honorable mentions. As you mentioned, it's a stack year, but that is a really enjoyable show. Not that any of us is a rabid stan, but Art, if you were going to go full Dre on somebody, who do you think you would stand for?
Like an artist?
Who's your favorite artist?
Or like director?
Whatever you want.
I'm a big Intercutie, so I think I'd go crazy for the podcast.
It's nice of you.
I don't think I have anybody like that. Viola Davis, I'll say that.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
All right, Amanda, how about you? What's your number 5?
I think I'm gonna go with The Last of Us.
Nice.
Okay.
Because like I love this show and everything it did. I think it did as close to perfect as you could hope for it to do. It fleshed out some really nice things. So you might be wondering, well, why isn't it higher? Because it didn't do enough. It's like my biggest complaint about the show is that it just needed to be more. You know, it felt streamlined. It kind of felt like if someone was like, oh shit, I got to get through this story really fast. Can you edit me down? Like a Cliff Notes copy is kind of almost how it felt in certain areas. Like, give me more tension with like clickers, give me more moments where there's like the threat of the world as well as the threat from the people. Just give me a little bit more, because it's like 9 episodes, but only like 8 of them actually have to do with the characters that we're following and need to be invested in. And that episode that isn't focused on them is still great, and it ties into their story and their progression, so it's fine. It's just, I know I'm talking about reasons why it's not great, but it's because I have an entire video about it, so I'm just talking about like the thing that's stopping it from being higher on my list, even though I have the remasters sitting pretty right behind me.
Dude, because it's crazy.
It's a show that we all really, really enjoyed, and I think because we all have a familiarity with the property because of the video games, we all came into it maybe with certain expectations or certain hopes for it, and particularly, Amanda, I think you're talking about the feeling that the series doesn't give you that the game really can, that you're like living with these characters and evolving with these characters, partially just because of the amount of time you're allowed to spend on a video game that TV doesn't necessarily allow for. So maybe Art's being the less impartial one than you and I, because we put it lower on our lists. But like, it's great stuff. We're not complaining about how they did it. We maybe just want
I agree
just
or
a
more,
bit
or
more.
Yeah,
it's at 4, so let's just wrap up the conversation here, so I don't have to bring it up for mine. It's gonna be right up next at 4. I agree with you guys. There should be more clickers. There should be. You should be able to get deeper into the characters just by a little bit. I for one, think that the finale could have gone harder. Yeah. And it felt like montages of the violence, and I don't think people understand how violent the show needs to be. Yeah. Especially when you get to part 2. Violence plays a pivotal role. You cannot shy away from that. I know a lot of people think that, showing too much blood ends up getting into the level of like torture porn or such, but there is also a reason to get that gratuitous. And it has me worried, like Amanda was saying, that if they're not willing to go this far for the tame version of these 2 parts, then how are you going to handle this next one?
Yeah,
so,
and I
still liked it. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I still like it. And I really need them to not get caught up on the hype of certain characters and people portraying certain characters. They need to let things play out as they need to play out. They need to do it.
Like Zach said, we're big fans of the game, so we know the potential that it can be. So we're seeing at what point are you letting the game kind of fill in the gaps for you? And at that point, it's a great series on its own, but you are kind of letting what we know about it make it better. So still top 5 for me though.
Yeah. Big fan.
Definitely. Amanda had The Last of Us at number 5, Art at number 4. I had it down at number 9. But let's move on to my number 4, I think we're at. And that's The Other Two, Season 3, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later with Arturo. So he just told us his number 4 was...
yeah, The Other People.
The other 3.
No, I'm good. Okay, I will. So now it's my number 4.
Yeah, back to Amanda.
I'm gonna put the beef here, actually.
Nice.
A lot of the stuff that kind of started coming out about the show after put a damper on it, but I caught it before any of that stuff really started coming out, and I thought it was just really incredible television, and the characters are just played so well, and just right from the get-go, the stress you can feel coming off of, especially like Steven Yeun's character, like right from the get-go, you just like feel it, and like the tension and that like last thread in your brain left before it's about to snap. And and then of course Ali is great, but that first episode comes on so strong, like once you realize why he has all the hibachi grills, and you're like, whoa, okay. And it's like, I just think they handle it so well, as it just kind of like weaves through this and all the different things happening. And it really doesn't, it's a very different role for Steven Yeun, particularly. Like they're making him this like very unliked, kind of semi-greasy weirdo, and it's and you kind of get the progression through that. And I always like it when characters or actors step outside what you're used to seeing them as, or especially where you've been seeing them recently, because he's done some like a lot of really prestige things, Minari, he's been up there, and now that was just such a harsh detour from like the character that how I'm used to seeing him. So I don't know, I really liked it.
The creator of the show, Lee Sung-jin, has said that he's exploring ideas for a second season, although nothing has been officially announced. Would either of you be interested or disappointed if they announced a second season, just because it feels like a fairly complete arc with the show?
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. Leave it, I guess. One of the most effective things that it did. Yeah,
well enough alone, take the money, make something new.
Yeah, the like when it gets road rage down, it gets you there. When he has these highs, you feel that there is a sequence where it involves someone realizing something about electricity.
Yeah.
Wow, that just the defeatedness of it. I've never been through what the characters have gone through, but I can feel what the characters have gone through. The range of emotions that they were able to get from the actors was fantastic. I want to see more, but I don't need to see more.
What about a beef anthology series?
Okay. I would be more okay with that.
Talk about that. Sure.
Yeah. Let's go that way.
I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
Hey, do any of y'all mix up the bear and beef? Because I sometimes call the bear. Yes. Mr. Beef, because that's the restaurant that they film at.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Your 4-letter B shows.
Yeah.
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 Fucking me up.
It's hard out there.
All right, let's get into the top threes, I guess, next. With my number 3, Poker Face, which Art you already had at number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's further down.
Oh, did you mention it already?
No, I'm sorry. It's
further
coming
up?
up. It hasn't happened yet.
All right, cool. So I'll hold off on a second. Let's go back to Art for his number 3.
I'll hold off at Succession Season 4.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. Amanda, what do you have at number 3?
The Bear, Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to talk about that as well.
Yeah, okay, we'll wait then. We'll wait.
We're just not talking about number 3s right now.
We're not talking about no number 3s. What's your number 2, Zach?
My number 2, maybe let's get to it now. Succession, Season 4. Amanda, do you have it higher? Or?
It's my 2. Succession's my 2.
All right, so let's talk about it now. Look, I really struggled between choosing the show that I think intellectually is the best on TV versus the one that I had the most emotional and visceral response to. And I'm ultimately going with putting the show that I think had the best writing, the best acting, the best production of the design second, which I don't feel great about, honestly.
No,
I don't feel great about it.
You're not going to sleep comfortable tonight, man.
My 1 and 2 have been doing this.
Yeah, and maybe I'll flip it when we get to the end of the year and I'm able to sit with my number 1 a little bit longer and maybe revisit my number 2 again. I thought the final season of Succession was absolutely brilliant. One of the best final seasons of television we've ever got. I know there are people who are disappointed with it. I don't agree with those people. I think the show became fully realized in its final season. It delivered on its promise to be a show about succession, to pass the reins on. And even if like there is like a Logan Roy-sized hole in the show for the final few episodes, it's one that is central to the drama of the show. And no show, I think, has writing that is so more precisely crafted than this one. Its ability to sort of reflect our world back, but also satirize it and just kind of expose these people as clowns that have the responsibility of like the world economy at their fingertips. I'm endlessly fascinated by the show, and it is brilliantly put together, and there's absolutely no reason that it shouldn't be at number 1 on my list. But it's still going to be at number 2. Amanda, you also have Succession at number 2.
Yeah,
what have you enjoyed about this show?
Mine's just been bouncing back and forth. I just think like it's like everything about this show is firing on all cylinders. This is the type of show that is primed for failure. It's the type of show that's primed for strong outing, and then you don't know how to figure out your ending or commit to your ending. And Succession did it. It felt like it had a purpose and an idea in place and how it was going to go. It's got pretty much everything you need. It's got the drama. It's got really high stakes emotions. I think it really handles how rich kids with that kind of dad would kind of develop and grow into adults. And they handle that really well, I find, without turning them into like caricatures. Mm-hmm. And then, you've got people like Greg that are just, there. But you also know, even if he seems absurd, that there's people like that want to be the leech, that want to be the like, oh, yeah, I'm your cousin, man, like they're there. So I think it is just fantastic. The performances are all amazing. Even just hearing some of them talk about it outside the show. Like I watched Jeremy's 10 Things I Can't Live Without on GQ, and he is just the man is on a certain level, and like how much he doesn't do the full method, but the way that he gets and becomes his characters and sees them as actualized humans, you can see that reflect in the performance.
Yeah,
and
people like to make fun of the dramaturgically thing, but it's like this guy who cares about his craft that much is giving you the best performance on TV. Like maybe he's the kind of guy who should be using words like dramaturgically.
He should be,
and then
he,
years from now they're gonna look back and be like, oh, he was always good, and they were the ones talking the most smack right now.
That's exactly it, and it's like I'm fine with it because to me it shows like a real care to a craft, and I just always really like listening to people who are very passionate about what they do talk about what they do and why they do it and how they do it. And I feel like you see that, and it's one thing to talk out your ass and then give a bad performance like fucking Jared Leto and every other method actor there is out there. There's more. He's just the most recent one that comes to mind. And then the people that like take it seriously, but don't make it everyone else's problem. But he is. Yeah, I think the show in general is really good. The kids all really stand out. All the arcs have been great, and I really liked Skarsgård. I'm a big fan of him, so it was fun to see him in this. And it really is a show that is just. It should be my number one probably, and maybe by the end of the year it will be again. But I feel like I haven't sat with it quite long enough for me to. But yeah, Succession season 4.
So Amanda and I had it at number 2. Art, you had it way down at number 3. Why do you hate Succession?
Damn near an honorable mention at that point. So damn low.
Disgusting.
It's just ridiculous. I wanted it more. I feel like the last season could have been extended. I felt like we needed just more character moments with them. Like, there's no filler to me in the show. It's like
The
Zach
Last
said,
of Us,
both of you said. Yeah, it's this idea of, like, I want to live in this world more. And look, it's crazy that I'm saying, like, I wanted more fat, less trimming, but, like, it really was just paced so quickly that I wanted it to be extended, but then at the same time I'm like, no, but the episodes were so action packed without really any action. The election episode, that's gonna age like fine wine, right?
Yes, it is.
Fine wine, which you hold until you need that information to be smashed on someone's head. The quotables are insane. I am one who did feel like, everyone always holds Wes Anderson to, like, oh, he's aware of what he does, his shtick. I did kind of feel that for the Succession writers. I think you see them go do other things, and I do wonder how much of them, like, they knew the moments that were going to be gifts. I think Zach and I disagree on that a little bit. I wanted the ending to hit a little bit more. I just wanted to see what was going to come next. Again, none of those are bad things, because I do think in due time it's going to sit well. I'm going to like it more. But I just find these other two that are above to be impeccable in ways that we're about to talk about right now. Oh, also, for Jeremy, y'all heard about that Brian Cox bit where he's, like, always jealous about the co-stars who he really respects?
Yeah.
And now they're showing how, like, he keeps kind of looking down at him. And that just shows you how much respect Brian Cox has for him. So I want Jeremy to do so many more things that Succession is just another bit in his IMDb. Yeah. I really hope for that for him.
He's great.
He deserves it. He's a fantastic actor. All right, so Succession, Art's number 3, my number 2, Amanda's number 2. Let's go back to Art for his number 2.
Zach hated it when I said it. But my favorite HBO show is the one I've been quoting the most. The Other 5, as Amanda knows it by. This is a series that I think has been it's been so self-referential. Many times we have these jokes that are made from the outside looking in. These are jokes on the inside looking inner. Like, it is just the funniest season that they've had from all three. And y'all know that I'm a big comedy fan. And I don't need it to be drama first. We were kind of discussing whether Succession is a comedy or is it the drama? Are we going in there to quote more of the funny stuff, or is it really those dramatic turns? And I do think that Succession balances it.
It does.
The other two is a comedy, but damn, does it find these really good performances? Like Zach put in one of our weekly picks. These are the crappiest people alive. And because of that, I'm a sicko, I guess, because of Bo and Sick of Myself, which I had in our top 10 movies. I just like the honesty of people who are willing to showcase the worst parts of them, because then I think that's when you get to showcase the better parts, maybe not in themselves, but of the people around them. The way it goes at the industry is the best. We had talked about it with Barry. Nobody beats this, because they're not just making fun of Warner Bros. They take shots at everybody. And because of that, it's so high on my list, because I have not quoted anything more than this. And people seem to be quoting this more than they even watch it. So Amanda, if you ever have free time, do yourself a favor and watch the other two. It is hysterical, and it turns out that it just wrapped with 3 seasons. So that's
it. we just are finding out that it is ending its run, unfortunately, and the series finale, as I thought it was a season finale, but apparently series finale is publishing just now. So that sucks for you and I, who really enjoyed this show, and also because I feel like season 3 is the best it's ever been. It's really just hitting in terms of the cultural commentary. You know, the thing is that lots of comedies make fun of things that are like hateful and deserving targets. This is a show that really just has it out for anything and anybody. It's putting its finger on things that you maybe sort of feel but never articulated, and sometimes it just feels so cruel and unnecessarily mean, but it does it in a funny enough way that it's totally justified, at least in my eyes. And another thing I'll say for it is that, something that's obviously cool is that we live in an era where there are all these shows and movies that are discussing like underrepresented groups. And a lot of times I find that the discussion of those underrepresented groups is very surface level. It's not stuff that is like a revelation to most people. But I find that the other two is consistently finding like incisive, like interesting nuances into gay culture that are like actually things that are exciting to see commented on and joked about. And it's just that ability to see the world around you and then like reproduce it and also make it funny is something that is so strong on this show. So
did you say gay culture?
Yeah, I said gay culture.
That's all you had to tell me.
I don't want to spoil it for you, Amanda, but just wait till you watch the show. Okay. On top of that, the mental health. I know Zach made a mention of this for one of the last episodes. No. The way Zach was putting it, it's like we're barely getting like Ted Lasso going to the White House to talk about mental health. What's the point past that? This show isn't about letting you know about something. It's so inside of that culture and is making fun of virtue signaling. It knows what you're already thinking about the subject and trying to get to the honest, and like Zach said, almost rough parts that it seems mean to the point that it's ruffled some feathers, but that's exactly why I love it. And I think the show has I want to say balls, but I know that it already used an episode where you're not supposed to say certain words, only for it to end it in a certain way. It's fantastic.
Yeah, a really, really revelatory show. Is that your watch list?
Yeah, I stuck it to my desk. Can't forget about it. No, we had a whole thing because apparently they've been telling me to watch this for 3 years, and every time I see it on like when I'm looking up like shows I should be catching up on, it shows up, and I'm like, there's already 3 seasons. What is this show? And apparently y'all have been telling me about it for 3 years.
We began the pre-podcast by talking about it being wrapped and canceled. And Amanda's like, that's an interesting show. I should add it on my watch list. And I'm like, Amanda, you've been on this show where we mentioned it.
Yeah, because you're like, I gave you so many hints, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean. And you're like, you said the name of the show, and I was like, I've never heard of that before.
So tune in at the end of the year.
To you on Monday. It's
where
Thursday.
Amanda reviews The Other People over on Netflix.
We'll get back to Amanda's thoughts on the other two sometime in the next decade.
Sounds right.
We've got just the number ones left, I guess.
Is it the same? There's no way.
You and I have the same number one, and it's Amanda's number 3.
Yeah, the Bear is my number 3.
Yeah, so my number 1's the Bear, and I'm pretty sure that's yours as well, Art. So you want to kick us off? Why is the Bear the best show?
Or do we want to do my number 1 and then do the Bear? Should we do mine? Should we get my number 1 out of the way?
Go for it.
That's cool. We'll give the Bear the anchor slot.
I have an honorable mention.
Number 1.
Dave.
Had
the funniest cameos of the year.
I heard good things about Dave.
That was my 4th comedy.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? I think in somewhere in there, it got lost that I had Poker Face at number 3 on my list as well. So let's talk about your number 1 and my number 3. Poker Face.
I think it's so goddamn creative. I think it maybe fumbles the ending a little bit.
Really?
Maybe. Like I might have to think about it, but yeah, I feel like it's so strong. And I am really not someone who likes like anthology-based shows. That's why like The Mandalorian really lost me, where it's just like every episode a new adventure. But with her, it works because it's just the way they weave the shows together, the episodes, and just like her thing. It's so fucking good and creative and filmed so well. Like it really just shows like why Rian Johnson is that bitch, you know, like he knows what he's doing. He does these things incredibly well. And he's like kind of showing that like, oh, yo, the whole mystery thing, like that's, you know, that's not just the thing I do with these Knives Out movies. I can do all sorts of different things and keep you like really engaged and keep it interesting going long term. And I thought it was so good. It helps that it's Natasha Lyonne. She is just a gem. She's fantastic. I've loved her for years, and I'm so glad that like the rest of the world seems to love her too, and she keeps getting the chance to do these really creative and fun shows. But yeah, I think it's so good. It's so good. I blew through this show so quickly, like because I waited till it was all out, and then I was just like binging it because it was so good in like a single day.
We were rewatching episodes.
Yeah, like it's so good just to like rewatch things because you'll catch so many little details, or if, you know, as long as you're paying attention, you'll be rewarded while you're watching it. You'll be like, oh my god, that's why that thing, blah, blah. Yeah.
It's so insanely creative, and I just love that they're able to kind of mostly wipe the slate clean and move forward week to week, but it's also gifted with this incredible rotation of guest stars, some of the best guest stars of any show on this show. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly structured show. I love that every episode kind of introduces you to the world, and then you find out where Natasha Lyonne's character has been for all of it. It's just a premise that keeps giving you more and more opportunities for fun stuff. So to me, it's a show that could go on for as long as they feel motivated to make it, as long as they have ideas.
Please.
Like, and I also like love the idea of even just like watching 3, forgetting about it, and then revisiting it. It's, you know, not necessarily a show that needs to be like binge watched, but it's such a pleasant treat when you know you have a couple there waiting for you. My favorite one of the first season was Exit Stage Death. That one particularly I thought was hilarious, but you know, there's everybody I've talked to has a different favorite episode from the season because there's so many good ones. I think Art, you were saying you liked the one towards the end. Was it Escape from, or was it the, well, which was the one with the Phil Tippett like guy?
Who the heck's Phil Tippett?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what his name is? The one with the puppets.
The puppets? Which one was the puppets one?
Was it Escape from Ship Mountain, or was that?
That's episode 9. That's the second.
No, I think it was the Orpheus Syndrome. That was that one. With Alina's the special effects artist.
Oh yeah,
that's Alina's favorite.
I like that one a lot.
I like the one in the nursing home.
That one was
the
great.
one in the nursing home is
with was it Judith Light?
With the couple, the two older
and
ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think her performance in there at the end, from Natasha, is so good.
So good.
Incredible show.
So good. I don't even know which one my favorite would end up being. I do actually really like Escape from Ship Mountain. That one is like, what the fuck? And I do really like the one where they're in the old folks home, because like I did not expect the direction that one was going to go in. And it's like rare for me to kind of be caught. Like I'm watching Black Mirror this year and I'm like, it's going to be that there it is. Okay, cool. Let's move on. But yeah, this one, it shocked me how much it got me. Like how many times I was like, oh my god.
Genuinely surprising.
Yeah. So
and
big fan of that. Yeah.
Very cool show, Poker Face. It's Amanda's number 1, my number 3, and Art, you had it way down at 7. How dare you? But
there's something wrong with me.
Let's get back to your number 1, The Bear, as well as mine.
Yeah. I was about to say, let's talk about your number 1. The Bear season 2 came in full throttle. Amanda, you said you did. You got it at number 3, right?
Yes, my number 3. Yeah.
The performances in this have elevated to a whole other level. Look, season 1 talked about how the food culture in terms of restaurants and such has been shifted because of the show, and now all of the normies kind of know all the behind the scenes that have happened there. Look, I worked in fast food. I worked in restaurants where I put in the flat stove in. We were like doing it from scratch, so I know exactly what it's like to be on a line. I know exactly what it's like to have to cut up stuff in the backgrounds. How quick it can be and how much the tensions rise. We've talked about other movies like Boiling Point, where it's a long take about a fine dining restaurant. One of my favorite games is Overcooked. I use that to de-stress. So this show is so up my alley. I know that people cannot handle the anxiety that this that this causes, but to me it just makes it feel so real. This is a season that is able to replicate a lot of the things that season 1 got right in terms of its characters, in terms of the oneers that they do in here as well. But as Zach and I were talking about in one of our last weekend watches, the ability to showcase not just creativity, but people learning without getting yelled at, without feeling questioned, but to be able to have that curiosity, to want to know what makes the dish work, to want to know. There's one episode with Cousin, and that's what I love the most. It's not even the people who you think would be the most curious, but the way that you see his passion be ignited when he thinks that what's his purpose in this restaurant. Again, The Bear is about a restaurant that is just selling, if you want to call it fast food, Italian beefs, until an incident happens within the family-owned run restaurant, and Carmine, who worked at a Michelin-star restaurant, comes back and finds a way in season 2 to kind of elevate it into a maybe also fine dining restaurant. That you see all these people kind of up their game, people who don't want to sell sandwiches for the rest of their life, realize what the purpose is of not just a restaurant, but servitude, and the way they're able to become a family. Ayo is just, this is the best thing she's been in, and it's not even the last thing she's going to be in this year, because it's one of y'all's favorite movies that she's going to be in that's coming up. I can keep talking, guys. Tell me more. It's just, I don't know what y'all's favorite part was this season, but it's so good.
There is so much, and a lot of it does really just come down. I mentioned this in my con thing, where there's just things like another movie that had to do with cooking, that it's like, I thought this was going to be the most boring movie of the festival, and then it got me, because you can tell when someone is filming something that with care. And it's the same idea here, is that these people are at least acting as people who have a genuine care and passion for like what they're doing. Like, I love all the scenes with Buddy off with Will Poulter, like just learning all these it's Marcus, so good. It's all these like simple little moments that are just kind of like in the background of this like continuously elevating shitstorm that like they can't get out of. And like I kind of was worried that I kept seeing all these new people being like added to the cast list, and I was like, are they gonna overstuff this thing?
Spoiled.
Ooh.
I had half spoiled because I was dumb enough to go on IMDb, and then I was still surprised by everybody else who was appearing, and all of them they're all great ingredients to the big pot that they have going on.
I was worried. I was like, is it too much? Are they gonna do too? Are they gonna try to do too much? But I'm like, no, they nail it.
This is something that Succession is excellent at, but I didn't know that The Bear was excellent at it too until this season, and that they'll just add somebody in, and it feels like they've been there the whole time. They're completely on the vibe. You know who they are within an instant of them talking, and it's because the show has such a like precise vision of not only who these people are, but the world that they operate in.
Yes,
absolutely.
And on top of that, not only do they feel like they've been there the whole time, it informs the characters we've been following. We're like, oh, that's why you are the way you are. That's where you got it from. Bro, there is a performance, a guest, right? Guest? I don't know what the category would be. In the back. Just absolutely in the back. It is, oh, man. There's a dish Marcus showcases towards the end, and he names it.
Ooh, and...
that tear had to go back inside my eyeball, bro.
Yeah.
He did not have to go so hard. I wonder what it was like when he read that on the script and he goes, oh, wow, I got one of the best scenes in the season.
Yeah. And it's ultimately stuff like that is why I ended up putting The Bear above Succession, because I might think that Succession is like the best show, but like I can't help but feel like my chest welling up and my eyes water for like 30-minute periods at a time anytime I click on a new episode of The Bear. I'm just like so actively in my emotions and feeling the show, and I can't really help but get overwhelmed by it. Like there's without really spoiling the context around it, there's a moment where an omelet is made towards the end of the season, and you just watch the omelet get made, and it's not something that should be like great TV, but it just is so moving and perfect. And some of that I think is just that this show is really good at like delivering up the kind of stuff that like is easy to love, and there's so much to be like, I don't know. There's so much to feel uplifted by this. Like I think we can all relate to food and the acts of like preparation and service and working towards something greater than yourself. But it also like it's a show that allows you to get on these characters' sides and like believe in their cause and watch their struggles, so that when you see them succeed, like you feel almost like it's a part of you succeeding too, because you believed in them from the start.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments this season where I don't know if it's maybe like the indie FX show version of like fan service, but if it is fan service, I'm gobbling it up. It's just the smile on what's her name, Tina's face in that first episode is just like burned into my brain because of how good it made me feel. It's an
when
incredible
they're outside
show.
and she gets asked.
Yeah.
Yes. And I could talk
and
more spoilers
so,
thematically, but yeah. No, it's so good. I got 3 things. One, Zach, where did you have the other 2?
I put the other 2 at number 4 on my list.
4, Succession, but we both had The Bear at number 1. My second thing is, do you think seeing The Bear all in one go, something that we were kind of iffy with, and then Succession weekly, seeing that the one that you were able to binge and the one that was weekly, where they ended up, do you think it adds anything to the conversation of how we consume and watch these shows? Amanda, I ask you the same thing.
I did try to pace out The Bear a little, although I did go from the beginning to the end in probably like 4 or 5 days, so it's not exactly comparable, like you said, comparable to Succession. The other thing with Succession is that it is a lot more to chew on. Those are all hour-long episodes, some of them an hour and a half. They are denser in terms of the things that they're commenting on, and the scene shifts from week to week. You know, we're literally going from different sides of the globe sometimes on that show. So they're kind of different animals, and I like how Succession is episodic in a way that I like having more time to sit with it. I think weekly works really well for Succession, and I think weekly could work really well for The Bear too.
I agree.
But it's also just like, because it's such a viscerally appealing show, since you get so emotional watching it, there is something to just like letting the whole thing wash over you in 1 or 2 sittings.
I'm always conflicted. I think week to week helps with the show's like longevity and the hype and building momentum and giving people a chance to feel like they can hop on before the next thing's there. But I feel like I enjoyed when I watched Succession for the first time, I didn't pick it up until season 3 was starting. So I got to just blow through 1 and 2, and I really enjoyed that, even though I agree there is something to giving time for the episode to really make sure you're digesting everything that they're throwing at you, because it's so just filled. But then The Bear 2 being the 30-minute episodes, I do think it works maybe better in its favor to just let it all be out there. It's not really the type of show that you need to build the hype for week to week. Like, it's not like I can't wait to find out what happens next week, blah, blah. It really is just kind of like a journey with the characters, and you can choose to watch it kind of spaced out more, or you can choose to watch it all in one go. And I don't think you won't feel left behind if you do it either way. So I just think it does maybe depend on the type of show, the type of audience they're going for, and it's kind of going to be the constant debate. And I see benefits to both sides of it.
My last bit was, since we've all seen Platonic, you know, the annoying brother-in-law who runs the bar?
Yeah.
He's in The Bear as the guy who helps cousin at the restaurant and teaches him what the whole point of servitude is. And I have never seen an actor go from that to this.
Yeah.
Whoa, I love that.
Just to showcase
two very different sides of him.
Oh, that's crazy.
Incredible.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great show. I'm really glad that we'll be getting more of it. It seems, it's I don't know. I just loved watching that show so much. So we will end up talking about The Bear a lot more, I'm sure, on Intercut. Maybe we need to do a deeper dive into season 2 soon, because there's so much good stuff there. But that's about all for our best TV of the year so far. If you want to catch more from me, Zach Shevich, you can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at ZShevich, or check out my YouTube and TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Amanda, thanks for joining us. Where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Twitch, and probably some other places, all at Amanda the Jedi.
All right, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at Mr. Beef eating a nice, hot, and juicy Italian beef, or virtually at LME Movies. Wet hot, just double dipped. At LME Movies on all social medias, but every week here on the Intercut Podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast, and then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio version, but to the video feed as well. YouTube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our tired, yawning faces as we break down the latest in it. Yeah, I could use some dinner too. I got a barbecue to get to soon. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday, and please leave us a comment, like the videos. Consider heading to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review, and maybe leave us a comment what miniseries we're all going to watch together when we do our road trip. Shout out to our listeners in the United States for putting us on the film review podcast charts right here. Like our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, our TikTok pages, all of them, including our Patreon, are available at Intercut Pod, as well as our Discord, which you can find a link to in the description of this episode, to get updates throughout the week from Art, from Amanda, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, I love you, but you're not serious people.